What's up, guys? Today I'm somewhat sick, but today I want to talk about this thing a lot of girls do, which is they sort of hover around guys um, that they like. And I don't know if this is the reason, so I'm really just putting this video out to see what my viewers' response to this is, because I know there's um, a decent amount of girl viewers. And so I have a few experiences of this happening, and I'm sure it happens a lot to other people. And I'm hoping it'll clue some people in. I'm sure the people who are really good with girls would probably answer something like, "Oh, I never even think about that because when I see the girl, I've already approached." But for a lot of other people, a lot of other guys who are either shy or they don't know what's up, or they're just not socially adept and they don't know what's going on, or they don't really know why they should approach. It's just very confusing. So for me, there's been other instances, but there's two that have recently come to mind for me. Um, and basically, um, these ended fairly badly in my opinion. The first time or second time I talked to the girl, and then all of a sudden, whether it be a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, for whatever reason, I see this girl again, and looking back, it seems very clear that she's like hovering around me, um, and they never talk to you; they just hover around you. And so there's another YouTube video from a girl, and she said something along the lines of, if you see her around you once, it's an accident. If you see her around you twice, it's not. Um, and so let me get into these stories in detail, and I want to see what you guys think. Leave a comment if you want. So the first instance was with this one girl, and the first time I saw her was in biology, and she seemed fairly popular. Um, and so this was a while ago, a couple, it was like a year ago. One day I just decided to pop out and talk to her briefly after class, and it was just like talking about the exam, and I'm like, bye, because literally, like, our campus is very big, so you kind of have to split ways unless you're going in the same direction, which is rare. So very short interaction. Um, but again, I think I'm unique in the fact that I'm Asian, and I mean, whether you like it or not, like, people tend to stick to their cliques. But for me, I don't do that. So um, I think she remembered me because I mean I'm this Asian guy talking to her. She was white, and so it's no big deal. And then she's in another one of my classes now, but um, I bumped into her again, like about a month or two ago, and that time I was just, you know, I actually was like interested in her. I saw her from afar, and then I, went up and did some indirect thing where I was like, hey, I know you. You're this girl's friend. Because I knew that girl and she was standing next to her. So then I just talked to her briefly and asked them, what were you guys doing after college? Oh, I'm going to study and try again for med school. And it was very like awkward and cold. Like the girl next to her, like I don't know what was up because I had actually messaged her on Facebook asking her like what her plans on medical school and so forth, and she didn't respond. So I didn't take anything of it, and I just saw her again like a couple months later, and I saw her with that girl, and I'm like, uh, oh yeah, I messaged you on Facebook about it. What what are your plans on med school? I played it off like it wasn't a big deal. She was probably busy, and that's why she didn't respond. And I was getting some sort of weird vibes, and some of it was kind of cold, so I had to push it forward. I asked a couple questions about it, but that was about it. And I said, okay, see you guys later. And at that point, I was walking away, and I was like, it was decent, but there's just some weird vibe there. Maybe she didn't respond on purpose. Maybe she thought I was hitting on her. Um, and I don't know. Maybe I was. I don't think like neither of those girls are like to the point where I'm like, oh, this is the best girl ever. So I don't have a problem if they're uh if they're not interested. And quite honestly, like it was more of like a physical attraction. I doubt even if they were interested, like we would have had that much in common. And so there I was just thinking, okay, that went horribly. Um, and so now she's in one of my courses, and lo and behold, one day she spots me, and I spot her too, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And so I'm walking to the front to ask the teacher a question, and she's just like, she's all of a sudden like she's talking to this other person, and it seems like she sort of blows him off, and then sort of walks up to me, and then like I'm in line, and I see her like talking to this guy, and then like second later like she's gone. So I'm like, did she just blow off that guy? Oh well. And I'm sitting in line, and then a couple minutes later I look behind, and she's there. She's like right behind me in line, and I'm like, what the heck, I didn't even notice her. And so I'm just like, what the heck's going on? And you know what, most 99% of the time, um like I get it. Like a lot of guys and people who are confident and know what they're doing, and um I've heard this from dating coaches too. It's just like you just go find out what's the problem. So I would have talked to her, but I was just thinking, I'm not in the mood right now. Like why? Honestly, like looks aside, physical attraction aside, I don't want to talk to her about freaking med school or anything like that. Um, I've sort of dropped med school for now. I don't think I did it because of it was twofold, because of grades, and more importantly because I didn't think I would even enjoy slaving away for 8 to 10 years. In fact, I probably wouldn't have even found it slightly fun. It would have just been um, slave labor to me. And so I think it's important to be passionate and love what you're doing as a job. So off that tangent, I just wasn't in the mood. And so after I left, for some reason I felt regret, but at the same time I'm like, you know what, if I had talked to her, it would have just been some whatever conversation about med school, which I don't want to even talk about. I could have steered the conversation elsewhere, but like, where else can it go right now? Like, what I'm interested in, she wouldn't have connected on at any level. Right now, I'm sort of interested in like finding a job right now, and I'm into finance and stuff like that right now. So there's one story. Then there's another one with another girl, and this one was something similar. She was in one of my classes, physics, and the first time I talked to her was outside of class. I saw her sitting down in the library, and it took me a long time to work up the nerve. But I'm like, I'm going to just talk to her casually. Like, what's there to lose? I'm just talking to her. I'm not asking her out on a date. So I talked to her about physics and stuff like that, and it was going very well actually. Like, she reacted to me very nicely, and then very quickly I ran out of stuff to say, and she wasn't really continuing it on. And so I tried, but then it just got sort of weird. So I just left. But I was like, you know what, that wasn't too bad. Fast forward, you know what, in class, it was weird. I didn't really talk to her. She worked in her group. I worked in mine, and so forth. And then like it was just whatever, because she always walked out with friends. And quite honestly, you know what, I could have just barged in even when there's people around and talked to her, but there's I just didn't like to do that. You need some sort of connection, so it was just like eh. And I don't know, these are the sort of things where you have to sort of gauge and not pressure or any like pressure her or anything, because like uh, with girls like that, like she was fairly good looking, so I'm like, I'm not gonna pressure anything. She knows what's up. She probably gets approached a decent amount, and quite honestly, like, I have standards. It's not just um, all looks. If she's a complete a-hole, I don't care how good looking you are. And then the next time I talked to her after that, she turned out to be quite the a-hole. Um, I guess she assumed I was hitting on her, so she was very, very rude to me. I talked to her again the semester after the class ended. I just saw her like sitting there. I think it was in the library again, and I talked to her, and surprisingly enough, she also said, after senior year, she's taking a year off and applying to med school again. And at the time, I'm just like, oh, this is like the 10th person I've met who's doing something similar. Like, jeez. I wish them all the best of luck, but I doubt they'll all get in. So I was kind of sick of talking about it, but I was kind of like maybe a little bit too nice to her, like, yeah, cool. And so then she was like, she was very rude. She was like, yeah, thanks, okay, bye. You know what? Like, you know what I'm saying, right? Like, she was just like, I'm not having it. And so I'm like, I walked out there and I'm like, that was very rude of her. Regardless, like, even if you're doing something very, I doubt she was doing something that important. If she was, she would have told me. Um, but it was very rude. And so after that, I saw her once more, like a couple weeks later, and it was a total accident that it was her. Like, I thought it was someone else, and I wasn't sure, so I didn't want to talk to her, and I was hoping to God it was a different girl. Then lo and behold, when I finally, get in front of her, like I was walking in class, it turned out to be her, and I was hoping it was a different girl. And I'm just like, I'm just gonna try my chances. I'm hoping this is not the same girl. Turned out to be the same girl, and I'm just like, whoa, sorry. And then I just said like, I said something very, very stupid. I said like, oops, do you know where the library is? I didn't say library. I said like some building. And then I'm like, never mind. And then I left, trying to cover myself up. I feel like if it was a different girl, like a new girl I never met, I probably would have introduced myself or something. Or maybe not, I don't know. But it was her. So I was like, oh, it's this girl again. And at first she was giving off like negative vibes, but then like, I don't know what happened, but she started like she laughed and at the like last bit, and she lightened up when I said never mind, and then I went away. So at this point I'm just like, I don't care even if she has lightened up. I don't like her attitude. And I think there's another occurrence where I may have talked to her. Yes, there's another occurrence where I talked to her, and she was again very, very rude. This was before that never mind thing, and before the second time I talked to her in the library, and she was very rude. So that time I I called her after class, and she was just like not interested at all. She was just like, she had very rude body language, and she was just like, don't talk to me, so forth. So she apparently thought she was too good for me. And so now, for whatever reason, she's in the same class as me, and I walked out of that class, and she, like, here's the thing, like, she like very, she went along the same way I was, looked at me, and just kept walking the same exact way, hovering around me. And it was clear because during the first couple weeks of class, and in other classes, I've met girls who are just like, they're so not interested, like this girl included, that she would have like avoided me at all costs. But all of a sudden, based off that last interaction where I was just like, do you know where this building is? Never mind. She changed. Maybe she thought I was brave to still approach her after being shot down so many times, or she's looking at me in a new light. And quite frankly, like, at this point, I don't even know. Like, both of these girls somewhat disgust me. So, I mean, what can I say? But regardless, like, these aside, let's put these aside. There were girls in the past where it's just very strange. I'd never had any of these situations where they disgusted me, and yet so there was always a nice relationship between the person and me. And on occasion, you know what? Boom, they're hovering around me, like I don't even understand it. So maybe I should have talked to them. Maybe I shouldn't have. And I remember a couple years ago, I was reminiscing on all those experiences where at the time I was just very unsure, and I made up my mind that if it ever happens again, I'm just going to talk to her, because I'm so sick of these what ifs. And yet, lo and behold, these happen again. And sure, I do regret them in small ways, but I'm going to leave these two as exceptions because they're different. If these girls were like amazing and they had no problems, even if there's some sort of questionable hovering that may not have been hovering, I will have jumped on that wagon. That hasn't occurred in a while. The most recent experience, other than those two that I can remember, was also somewhat bad, which is why I didn't approach again. But that one was pretty much, I talked to this girl, and at the time I was just like insecure. This happened like a year ago, or less than a year ago, and I was just very frustrated. And she was very good looking and a little taller than me, and so I was just very frustrated at that point. And I went up to her and I started talking, and I straight out asked her, "Do looks matter? Just give me your honest opinion. I don't care what you think. I mean, I care what you think, but like be brutally honest with me," because I was just very frustrated at that point. And she was like, based on my approach and stuff, she was just sort of freaked out and like kind of like taken aback. I had met her before, so it wasn't just like out of the blue. I think I casually talked to her while she was walking back from the gym one day when I was walking back from the gym. And so I was just very frustrated, and I knew she wasn't like interested in me, because after that meeting at the gym, I had spotted her once for like a second, a couple weeks later, and I was just like, "Hey, do you remember me?" And she just gave this like uninterested like body language. She was just like, she started looking at her phone, texting, and she was just like, and I'm like, "Okay, bye then." And so I spotted her again, and for whatever reason, maybe I was frustrated, whatever. I went up to her and I said this, and she was just like, she was just very uncomfortable. She was like, they do, I mean, to a certain extent, they do matter. And she was just like very taken back, and she was just like, she was very uncomfortable. So she was like, I have a boyfriend anyways, and I honestly didn't even, I wasn't there to hit on her or anything. So maybe it was just my body language or whatever that gave off the wrong impression. And then she pretty much like ran off. She started walking a lot faster, and so I was just really bummed out that day. Um, Hopefully that will never happen again. That frustration. Um, so sorry guys. Maybe I don't know what's wrong with this collar. It's turned into like a mushroom collar. It used to be very straight. Um, so then a few weeks later, um, I'm in the diner and I see this girl again, and I'm just like, oh goodness. So I'm just walking around, and then there's these small instances where, for whatever reason, it seems like she's hovering around me, but maybe not. And so then I just I order my food, and I'm at the condiments station, just getting a few condiments on my food. And before I get there, like she's like standing there getting condiments, and I didn't notice. And I'm walking there. I'm like, okay, I'll just walk around her. So I walk around her, and it's just very weird because she's still staying there. She had to have noticed me, and so at that point, I didn't want to approach like these, and that was the end of it. So these were three stories of sort of bad interactions, and for whatever reason, later on, I chose not to approach when they hovered. Maybe all three of them changed their mind, or maybe it was just a coincidence and they weren't, none of them were hovering. Um, but in my opinion, like, if you're really not interested in someone and you want to get the heck away from them, you wouldn't even be close to them. But then there's that rare thing where it was maybe they didn't notice me at all, and maybe they just wanted to get their job done. For me, I don't think that was the case. I'm sure, at least in one or two of these instances, they knew I was there. And that girl who was in line behind me, like I asked the professor a very long question. She talked back for a long time, and then after I asked my question, the girl behind me, like her question was like this, like I didn't hear the question, but it must have been some BS question because she asked it, and then the professor responded, and then she was off. So most likely she may have just been hovering. But again, these are three instances that are anomalies. What I really want to talk about are those rare instances which have yet to happen for a while for me, where like there's no like negative meetings prior to that hovering. Um, and those are those gold opportunities that if they ever happen again, I hope I'm brave enough not to waste them again. Um, and I'm talking about like maybe in high school, like there's these rare instances where um, there's this girl who I had never talked to, and for whatever reason, she often just plopped and sat right next to me on the bus when there's all these open seats around her. Um, and that's something weird that girls do. I wish it happened more often so I can work on fixing it. Um, but it just confused the heck out of me. It was just out of the blue. Um, and some of the times it made so little sense. Like in high school, like I was this nerdy guy with glasses and bad fashion. I thought, at times that I looked pretty darn good, especially without glasses. But I always wore glasses. But I was this nerdy guy, and there's this like really good-looking girl. She was Asian, and She had amazing fashion sense, and she seemed fairly popular in school, quite popular. And out of the blue, on a few occasions, she just sat next to me in class. I mean, not in class, on the bus. And I called that hovering. Like, I'd never talked to her before, so there's no negative prior experience like the recent cases. But if those ever happen again, I mean, I don't know what I would do. So let me know in the comments if you've actually watched this entire video, and let me know your thoughts, your advice. And at the same time, you can argue that it doesn't matter either way, because with that girl, I mean, she's technically still on, like, I'm friends with her on Facebook still. It was something stupid, like I added her, I really never talked to her, but I added her on Facebook after that. I said something stupid like, hey, you're that girl on the bus, right? I'm just adding you for whatever. And she was just like, lol, haha, yeah. And I don't know. But yeah, since then, it's been years since that event. She's had a boyfriend for numerous years, the same boyfriend, black boyfriend. I wish them all the best, and they're still dating as of now. But one could argue, like, come on, you added her on Facebook, and I think I may have tried to talk to her once or twice after that, but it didn't work out for whatever reason. So one could argue, like, sure, if you miss out on hovering, it doesn't really matter. But I guess I'm going to sum it up with my real opinion on this. I'm not going to let this happen again, unless it's one of those rare occasions when, like, you're not feeling the girl, like in my recent cases. I hope I can not let this happen again, because for me, those are those rare occasions for me. And I mean, it's not that rare to the point where it's happened a few enough times throughout my life, for it to have a big enough impact for me to do this 30-minute long video on the topic. But it's still very rare. It's not like it's still not something that happens every day, not something that happens every month, some years not even once. But occasionally for me it happens, and occasionally it's a really good looking girl. Occasionally it's not. Occasionally I'm not interested. But those are those rare occasions I reminisce about in the past. And it's like, well, that's a lesson to be learned. So I'm 21 now. I'm pretty old, still fairly young though, and I'm hoping I can fix that one day. What do you guys think about it though? Like, what about those girls I mentioned where it's just like, I didn't even really want to talk to them? Do you think I still should have done it, just so I could do something new for once, rather than miss out on all those opportunities? Because quite honestly, the great majority of the time in my past, there's been girls hovering around me and I didn't do jack squat. Sometimes I was confused, sometimes I didn't understand, sometimes I just wasn't sure. But that's it. And yeah, I'm gonna stop wishing and complaining and hoping. And hopefully this video has entertained you guys. Peace. As always, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe for more. It's free.